Welcome, foolish mortals, to spooky season. And now, for a selection of humorous ghost stories.
The Mummy. I work at the local museum. One night as I was closing up the mummy exhibit, the guard was called away. I promised not to touch anything, and I would lock up when I was finished. As I was about to lock the door, I noticed a piece of the white mummy wrapping coming loose, and I reached over to tuck it back into place. Suddenly, the mummy sat up and reached toward me. I jumped and backed away, but he stood up and began to follow me. I ran to the door, and there he was. I ran down the hall, and there he was. I ran over to the closet, and there he was. And in final, desperate attempt to get away, I crouched down underneath the staircase. And there he was. I was trapped. I had nowhere else to go, and I covered my head with my trembling hands. There, under the staircase, as the mummy slowly approached me, I could hear him dragging his long, wrapped legs behind him. Slowly, he reached toward me and touched my arms and said, "Tag, you're it!" Motorcycle Ghost. On the night of the big Halloween party, James and his dad were riding into town on their motorcycle when suddenly up ahead there was something on the road. James looked into the dark and screamed, "Dad! Ghost!" "Where?" asked his dad as he stopped. James pointed at a human skeleton on a motorcycle on the road ahead. "Is that a ghost? Or are we simply imagining it?" asked James' dad. "Dad, let's turn around and go the other way," said James, feeling terrified. But his dad kept looking at the skeleton. He said, "James, I'm not convinced. Let's go see this ghost clearly." James felt petrified, but wondered, could a ghost really ride a motorcycle? His dad started their motorcycle again and carefully went close to the skeleton. "Hello! What's the matter?" asked Dad politely. The skeleton looked up from trying to start his motorcycle and casually said, "Oh, nothing much. My motorcycle had suddenly stopped." James was shocked. The ghost spoke. "Why don't you fly instead? Ghosts can fly, right?" James asked. "Fly?" the ghost replied. "You kidding? If I could fly, would I be riding a motorcycle?" "Well, maybe the motorcycle's too scared from seeing a ghost, and that's why it won't start," James said. "What ghost?" asked the ghost. James turned the rear mirror toward him. When the skeleton looked at his reflection in the mirror of the motorcycle, he jumped. "A ghost!" he cried, and ran away. The Two Nuns. Two nuns, Sister Mary Agnes and Sister Mary Vincent, were traveling through Europe in their car, sightseeing in Transylvania. When they stopped at a traffic light, out of nowhere, a small vampire jumped onto the hood of the car and hissed at them through the windshield. "Quick, quick!" shouted Sister Mary Agnes. "What should we do?" "Turn the windshield wipers on. That will get rid of the abomination," said Sister Mary Vincent. Sister Mary Agnes switched on the wipers, which knocked the mini Dracula around, but he hung on and continued hissing at the nuns. "Well, what should we do now?" "Try the windshield washer. I filled it with holy water before we left the Vatican," replied Sister Mary Vincent. Sister Mary Agnes turned on the windshield washer. The vampire screamed as the water burned his skin, but he hung on and continued hissing at the nuns. "Now what?" Sister Mary Agnes asked. "Show him your cross," said Sister Mary Vincent. "Good idea," said Sister Mary Agnes. She opened the window, leaned out, and shouted, "Get the hell off our car!" The Ghost of the Bloody Finger. Everyone knew the abandoned house at the edge of town was haunted, and so everyone stayed away from it. One man came forward, saying he was brave enough to spend the night alone in the house. As he prepared to go to bed in the haunted house, he heard a ghostly voice. "I am the ghost of the bloody finger. I am in the front hall." The man thought it could be his imagination. The sound could be the howling wind, but the voice got progressively louder and closer. "I am in the front hall. followed by, "I am at the bottom of the stairs," and then, "I am at the top of the stairs." Next, he heard the door creak. He covered his head with the blanket in fear, and after a minute, the voice came again. "I am the ghost of the bloody finger. Do you have a Band-Aid?" Cemetery Watch. One dark night, a policeman was given the duty to guard a section of the old cemetery. As he went about his rounds and approached the cemetery, he noticed that the gates were open, and he could hear a rustling noise in the dark. Suddenly, he saw something white rushing towards him. Panicking, he drew his gun and fired several shots, but still it came at him. He tried to fire again and heard the sickening click of an empty chamber. And then the wind blew the bullet-torn newspaper into his face. The doll. There was a young girl who was extremely fond of dolls and had a huge collection at home. Once, while she was browsing at a toy store, she found the most beautiful doll ever and was keen to add it to her collection. When she asked the store owner, she was told the doll was cursed. But the girl insisted, and the owner reluctantly sold it to her. When she reached her home, she got into the elevator, and the doors closed behind her, but the lift did not move. She was trapped. The girl began to wonder, was this the curse of the doll? Suddenly the doll moved, turned her jet-black eyes toward her, and opened her mouth to say, "You have to push the button, you fool."